like to do here now is to go on to the next question and speak a little more about the Leicester Riders, your team. And of course, I've looked at the standings in the BBL table, and I think they're second at the moment. The league has shut down because of COVID, but I think you guys have played 10 games, you've won 7, and you're one of the top teams right there in the league. And I could imagine it must have been a really difficult time for you guys to have to stop, and the stadium brings in money for the area, for the team, etc. Can you highlight some of the successes of you guys owning your own stadium? And I suppose the liability it has become now because you're not able to do as much with it.
Yeah, a really, really important point. Yes, we've had quite a lot of success in the last decade. In fact, I think we've won the most trophies in the last decade. The last 2 decades, it's been ourselves and Newcastle who have been sort of bouncing off of each other, with London occasionally popping their head up in terms of trophies. But that led to the opening of our arena in January 2016. And that was transformational for the club, without a shadow of a doubt, because now we have a place, we can have our junior programs, we can have our community programs, we can have our riders games, riders training, all under one roof, the female team and so on, and disabled wheelchair basketball going on. And what we're also able is we've got an asset which we can sweat to generate money. In the same way, every football club and rugby club have their function suites, and they have all sorts of dinners and all sorts of other things that generate money. Yep. And we've been able to put Morningside Arena on the map. We've had international karate, we've had Frank Warren boxing, we've had matchroom darts, matchroom snooker, and we've had a whole wide range of events, Bollywood musicals, top comedians, and so on and so forth.
Nice.
The challenge, though, and you were talking about last season, which is now over, and we're planning for next season. We've just killed the last season because, of course, coronavirus has carried on. This great asset we had, suddenly, when you take away all your income, becomes a drain. Yeah. So we've got probably, we're pretty sure we have the highest liabilities in basketball in the UK, us in Newcastle, even have greater liabilities than any of the governing bodies. Right. So suddenly we've got a challenge, which is no income. You've got all of these bills that keep coming in, ground rent, insurance, internet, heat, light, and even when you are not open for the public, you still need to maintain the building, and so on. So it has been a big challenge, and sport has not got any help from the government, peculiarly, because just generally, the only sport that got any money was rugby league, and they convinced the government they were about to collapse, that the Super League was about to collapse, and they got a £16 million loan. On the other hand, the culture sector is exactly the same position, so lots of cinemas, not cinemas, but theaters, concert halls, and so on, they've all closed. And they're in a similar position to us. They've got buildings, maintenance, and so on and so forth. But the government have allocated them 1.57 billion, of which 800 million is grants. The sport gets 16 million to loan just to one sport, and culture gets 1.57 billion. So we've had no help from government beyond what you would normally get as a normal business, which is very, very modest. You get some help with furlough schemes and some business grants and so on, but that's sector-wide support. So it has been a heck of a challenge. We found a way to survive. We're desperate to get open again. We're still not allowed to have spectators. Right. If we aren't allowed to have spectators at any of our events, we can't open, because we'd be bringing back staff, but we wouldn't be able to generate enough money to do it. Yeah. Now, what we have seen is the numbers go down, the numbers of infections, the numbers of deaths particularly, and so you're starting to see the easing going on. But again, it's being easing of the restrictions in a very illogical way. And so it's quite frustrating. So last night, the government announced that all football below National League can have spectators again. Football. So why football and why at that level?
Yeah.
What is the logic of that? It doesn't make sense. Well, the government have a very difficult situation. They have to be concerned about public health. Of course they have. These are difficult decisions to make. And you have these little flare-ups of coronavirus going on in different parts of the country, such as Leicester, such as the Northwest, and so on. So it's a difficult thing to find your way through. But we need to find a way through. We need to get the clubs back running, the venues open, and people playing. Because if we don't, we create a whole lot of other problems, from a lack of physical activity, a lack of social engagement, mental health issues because people are not out and socializing, and so on and so forth. So it's a tricky thing to do, but we will have to get back playing sport with people watching, because that's what we do. That's what we enjoy. That's what makes life goes around. It helps with our mental well-being and everything else.
Exactly. Really, really good point. I agree with that. And, kind of going back to something we said just before we started this conversation about the return to play, I had a bit of a read of the British England website, and it kind of showed some of the stipulations that they've put in place. So like you could play, but there's no handshakes and anything. If you're on a sub on a team, you have to be social distance and all that sort of stuff, kind of mimicking what's happening in the NBA bubble at the moment. So I think they're trying to put certain things in play, but to have football have, some easing being given and not allow basketball and other sports in general to have that as well is, like you say, it's a bit illogical, a bit unfair, and it kind of makes you just wonder why those decisions are being made. Are there other ulterior motives linked to that as well? But we'll not stick on that for too long, but it's really interesting that you mentioned that. Last week when we had our first initial chat, I think you had mentioned very not for too long. We had a quick little chat about it, but I think you mentioned that there are some Black Lives Matter initiatives that you guys have kind of put in place. That's with Leicester Riders itself, or
that's the league.
The
league, yes. So the league has been. We have been talking with various parties, and we will have some new initiatives once we get going again. Once the schools are open. This is about kids, and this is about taking the message out, because the great advantage of our sport is 70% of the BBL players are Black, and they're all university educated, and they all got their education through sport. So because they were good at sport, they got scholarships and so on. So could there be a better ambassador for the power of education, and particularly for Black minority ethnic, than our players? I don't think so, because they went to the same schools as the young people went to. They've ended up in education from their disadvantaged background, and they're out there playing the sport they love and getting paid for it. So I think we have got the role models to do it. We've been in discussion, but of course we've got to get our season back, the players back in training, because we're not even allowed. For example, we're not even allowed to open our arena at the moment to allow the players to train. So we can't be ready for the new season unless the players train, and we're going to need at least a month to do that. So we're hopeful by the end of the month that'll be clear. Then all the clubs have to check that their venues are going to be open, because as I mentioned to you earlier, 1/3 of the venues up and down the country will not open. Already a number of arenas have been mothballed until 2021, such as the Sheffield Arena will not open for anything until well into 2021, just mothballed to save costs. So there's a seismic shift going on here, and somehow we have to come out of it the other side with a league intact, with the clubs intact, with our venues intact, and a way forward.
And I think leading very good on from that, I noticed as well in 2019, summer 2019, you were bestowed a prestigious award, the British Empire Medal from the Queen, for your services to sport and community. And I think that shows, you're trying to do so many things with the arena and everything to try to raise awareness. I think the players as well get opportunities to do their MBA at Leicester University.
Loughborough University.
There's a lot of opportunities you're giving people, not just to play basketball, but to help themselves and build the community. So how did you think about how do you feel when you got the appointment or the confirmation that you're being given this award by the Queen?
Well, I was very surprised, to be honest. I don't know exactly how the process works, but somebody has to nominate you and other people, and it was a great honor. But really, I'm here for the club. There's a lot of people who are involved in the club. A lot of people have made contributions. People who have been involved in the club for many, many years. Yes, I'm a sort of figurehead on aspects of it. I have been around longer than anybody else, so maybe there's a longevity aspect to all of these things.
Right.
But, it is a great honor, and I felt it was an honor for the club, and it's always good. Basketball doesn't get a lot of recognition, and when it does get it, I think it's good for the sport.
Yeah, excellent. And there's something else that you did as well for the community. I noticed there was a local art company or graffiti company that kind of worked with you guys to kind of put up some really lovely artwork around the stadium. Also kind of having a lovely mural up of Kobe Bryant and everything at that time. So it shows, there's a lot of collaboration with you guys and, the community to affect a lot of change and to beautify your
area. Because so the arena sits on the Grand Union Canal right next to Abbey Park, and as you say, the Graftwork Arts Collective, funded by the Canal and River Trust and the council, put up some great basketball imagery all along the building. So it's huge street art, and I think it lifts the whole area. And makes people feel good. And there's a lot of people walking and cycling to the park, particularly while all of this coronavirus. They're seeing all of this street art and basketball imagery. I think it's a good thing.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll stop here again on to just end this segment. I'll just do this little promo again for the Actors Post. Entertainers gravitate towards entertainers, so why not check out a website that is made by entertainers for entertainers? Visit the Actors Post for interviews with professional performers like dancers, actors, filmmakers, and even an international supermodel. Visit theactorspost.com or visit its social media pages at The Actors Post on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Okay, so this final segment where we kind of going to get a little more into you and basketball specifically. You mentioned you are from Canada, assuming that the Raptors were like your team. What do you see now about this team versus when you saw it when as an expansion team starting out in the 90s? What's kind of shocked you about them or nice to see?
Well, interestingly, the Raptors were not my original team, because when I was a young lad, there was only the Toronto Maple Leafs ice hockey. Right. And by the time I then had moved to New York, and so my first basketball team was actually the New York Knicks.
Gotcha.
And players like Willis Reed, and they were a top team then. The Raptors come along, and of course the Raptors have a great history, because they recruited Vince Carter early on, and Vince Carter was going to be the next Michael Jordan. He had all of the, and he had a great career, but he never quite made it to that level of winning. So, and then when I was commuting to Toronto for 5.5 years in the early 2000s. I used to stay at a hotel very close to where the Raptors played. And I used to get free tickets, so I could literally wander along anytime I liked to watch the Raptors. So I then saw those teams. But what is extraordinary is the way the Raptors have come through in the last couple of years, over the hump of a team who could be competitive, could be exciting, could have great games, to being a winner. And there's something that separates those teams. If you look back through the years, now they had some things going for them in the last finals with the injuries to Kevin Durant and so on. That helped. But if you look at the story of any winner, there's always those things going on in the background.
Yes.
And for them to be able to step through, you just got to admire Nick Nurse. And of course, Nick Nurse is someone we knew because it was many years in the BBL, as is the main assistant, the number one at New Orleans, Chris Finch, another BBL And then, of course, Nick Nurse's assistant, Pat Flanoy, has been many years at the Newcastle. So people talk about the BBL, but how many leagues in Europe have current coaches at that level in the NBA? Not too many, I think. And we have a few more ex-BBL people who are working their way up the system. You never quite know whether they're going to get there, but certainly Chris Finch is touted as a soon-to-be NBA head coach. So going back to it, what Nick Nurse was able to do, and of course he's had his association with BBL, taking them over the hump was amazing. Can he do it again this year? I don't know, because Kawhi is gone, and if you look back at those finals, at critical stages, you wonder who's going to take the shot that Leonard made. Who's going to do it? Because these NBA games, particularly in the playoffs, often come down to those last couple of minutes or critical plays, like when Leonard hit that ridiculous shot against Philadelphia, fading away, falling, the three-bounce, three-bounce three-pointer. So it'll be really interesting. But they love, I mean, the main thing is, this team over the last number of years, Toronto has really fallen in love with. Toronto, which has always been an ice hockey town. Ice hockey. Canadians are ice hockey mad anyway.
Right.
They have really embraced the Raptors. And part of that is the way the Raptors have recruited. They've always gone for international players as well as top talent.
Yes.
And it's been that combination. They went for Bargnani when as number one pick. Now he didn't actually work out, but when you look at what Toronto is, it's comprised of lots of immigrant communities. Obviously, a lot of Scottish, Irish, English, but subsequent communities of Portuguese, Italian, Greek, and so on. You see this, by the way, when the Football World Cup is on, because when one of the teams win, people are out on the streets, honking horns, whether it's Italy, Portugal, Spain, it doesn't matter. Some group in Toronto is excited. Right. So what the Raptors were able to do, by selective recruitment of Spanish players and other European players, they've always built that concept of a cosmopolitan international team, which Toronto fell in love with. And now this team has taken that to another level. And at the same time, that's driven some fantastic Canadian players, mainly from Toronto, who are now all over the U.S. college system, Wiggins, for example, and so on. There's been a lot of very, very good Canadian players coming through the system. And so you get all those synergies taking place. The Raptors, the falling in love, the interest in basketball, and it's a long-term thing. So going back to your early questions, what do we need to do in the UK? Well, there's the building blocks. You can see how things fit together if you can get a degree of synergy going on at different levels of the sport.
Definitely. So I agree with that. And the US have done such a good job of kind of integrating their teams and kind of building those pathways to professionalism and all of that. And it's the perfect blueprint for trying to establish that. But again, like you say, having the backing of government, the funding and everything is what's going to make it work for the British Basketball League over here as well. Did you do any cross-country trips to Vancouver when Vancouver had the Grizzlies for any of the matches?
I did not. I didn't because, of course, I left Canada when I was 7. I've been back numbers of times. I lived in Toronto between 2002 and 2008 while I was commuting. But the Grizzlies had come and gone.
They were only there for a minute.
Yeah. A bit like the Montreal Major League Baseball team. It was there and then it was gone. But of course, that's the thing about professional sport in the U.S.
Right.
If you can't make it work, there's a lot of impatience, and there's always another city to go to.
Yep, and we saw that with Seattle. Seattle was such a lovely team, and
Yeah,
Bennett moved them to
with a
Oklahoma
great
because of
history.
that, with a great history. Peyton, Kemp, and all these guys, and impatience, like you said, money being lost a little bit, I suppose, and Clay Bennett moving them to the Oklahoma City area. And I guess next question then for you is just a little information about you. Who's your favorite player of all time?
Favorite player of all time. I guess uh, it's Michael. I guess it's Michael. Um, uh, I've spanned a number of generations, and
Right.
it's impossible
Hmm.
to compare generations.
Hmm.
But Dr. J was such a revelation when he came on the scene, and
Right.
before him, Russell um, for the Celtics was just an extraordinary player, and then Magic and Bird. I've been the great thing about the lockdown is I do more exercise than I had been doing
You
because
do.
I've been too busy.
Hmm.
And while I'm exercising on the bike, I get to watch these old videos
Right. Right.
of Sir Charles
Hmm.
and Michael, and before them Russell and so on, and they are just real. And you see the difference of how the players have developed over the years,
Big time. Yeah.
and you realize how difficult it is to compare current players with former players. You really have no idea.
So
So
did, so did
I'm not a big fan of the GOAT. Who's
right.
the GOAT?
The go talk. It's difficult to compare eras. You just can't do it. So did you partake in any viewing of the Last Dance documentary then?
Yeah, I saw that all the way through. It's
Right.
fantastic, a
Yeah, it was
fantastic
really good.
show. Actually, a show your listeners ought to tune into, which is also on Netflix,
Right.
is Basketball or Nothing, and
Right.
it's about a high school basketball team
Mm-hmm.
in Arizona
Mm-hmm.
on the Navajo reservation.
Gotcha.
So it's all Navajo Indians,
Mm-hmm.
and how basketball in this tiny town, high school basketball, is the be all and end all
Yep.
for life chances for these people. Some of the boys are living at home with no running water, no electricity in current USA. It is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the story of how they went for a state championship at Division III high school. Fantastic story. And
I
actually captures a lot of what we were talking about today.
Excellent. It does. I remember seeing the trailer for it and I have it bookmarked as something to watch. I haven't gotten the chance to watch it yet, but since you mentioned it, I definitely check that out for some of my information. And last two questions for you. Of course, the NBA playoffs have now kicked off.
Yeah.
Who are you supporting in these playoffs? Is it definitely the Raptors or who are you really looking out to see come out as champions?
Yeah, I'd love the Raptors to come through again because it would be extraordinary if
Yep.
they could see the transition from Leonard away
Yeah.
to do it. You have to look at the clips. They again, Kawhi, Paul George, and so on. They must be there or thereabouts. But I also like Milwaukee.
Right.
And again, they've got the team, and I'd like to see them do well if the Raptors don't do well. I feel like it's their time that they've put the hard yards in, and maybe they deserve to do it. So I'll be looking out for them. And there's a few players and one big player in that team with something to prove, and
Mhm.
he's that guy. Can I take it to that
Next level.
next level?
Yep.
He's got all the talent in the world. He's a fabulous player to watch. The personality is great, both on the court, off the court personalities. You want people like that to win, don't you?
Definitely, and he has this kind of old school vibe about him. He's
Yeah.
in the gym all the time. He's not about making friends. He's just doing what he has to do. The final thing I'd like to ask you today, Kevin, I really enjoyed this interview with you. It was really good. Is there anything upcoming initiatives or anything that we could look forward to with Leicester Riders, the Morningside Arena? I know it's all difficult to say right now because of COVID, and it's all dependent on that sort of stuff. Are there anything that we could look forward to? I also, before I even answer that question, for people who are interested in the Leicester Riders, go check their website out. You know, some of their games are on there on YouTube. The arena looks amazing. You could check out, you know, their style of play, you know, what their facilities look like. So go out, check their website and see what they're about. But over to you, Kevin. Anything we'd like to know?
You know, we're, as you said, we're just wanting to get back operating at something like some normality. We've got a really exciting season coming up. We've seen major investment in the London Lions from a American grouping. We've seen a major investment in the Plymouth Raiders from a major global Turkish, who also have a team in the Turkish Super League. And Turkish basketball is very, very, very high level.
It is.
So we can expect that. So, and I told you before, Bristol have these fantastic plans for a 4,500 seat arena. So I think we're really starting to turn the corner at the BBL level. Riders, you know, we've got an arena now. We're looking to extend the arena. We have plans to make it bigger. They put it on hold because of coronavirus, but we have those plans. So, and when we do that extension, because it's not a matter of if but when, then we'll be able to do a lot more in terms of both community side and in terms of big events. So we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. That's good. So that's really good. I know, of course, you have to kind of recoup a little bit of losses from this difficult period, but I suppose when everything is off and running, you guys will be off and running, you know, and you know, getting fans in through the doors. You know, I noticed you guys sell jerseys and do loads of different
things.
That could,
absolutely,
bring people in and kind of take the team as their own. So Kevin, I'd like to thank you very much for this interview. It was really good, really informative. You know, thank you for spending some time with me. I think there are a lot of informative sound bites in here that would be really good to kind of put out there. And of course, anyone who's watching this interview and, you know, interested in trying to find out about Kevin, his team, the Morningside Arena, go check them out at the Leicester Riders website. I'll put them at the bottom of the screen for you guys. And, you know, thank you very much. I would like to keep in touch with you. I think, you know, I'm really interested in, you know, the development of basketball in the UK, and you know, it's really sad to see it's not getting to where it needs to be, but it sounds like there's a lot of exciting opportunities coming up with sponsorship, you know, external investors, etc. So it'd be good to keep in touch, and you know, good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Alister. It's been great talking to you.